first kiss. Come with me, I'ma make you levitate. I'ma make you levitate. One taste of me, gonna fly you away.
My name is Ashavari. My actual given name is Ashavari. It's not just a stage name or an artist name. Sh I would say that I'm an artist that really likes to focus on very raw vocals that are also very sultry and ethereal, but also grounded in this heaviness, I guess, across all of my music because I have a very diverse set of influences and I like to kind of bridge the gap between everything that I like into one cohesive sound. And I'm South Asian. I'm from a suburb outside of Toronto called Brampton, also known as the Flower City. And I've grown up here. I was born in Mumbai, but I moved here when I was like 6 years old. So I've spent most of my life here, all my music training here. And yeah, I take a lot of my local experiences, my experiences being in India and Canada, and I kind of fuse them into sort of what what you see today.
Amazing. So, kind of moving on to the new album, GFTM, Goddess from the Machine. It is such an intriguing and mysterious title. Can you explain what does that phrase mean to you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thanks for asking about that. I've been kind of teasing out GFTM for a little bit, but GFTM actually means Goddess from the Machine. So that's the title of the new album that I believe would have just dropped by the time this is up.
Yes.
So exciting. But yeah, I think the name kind of comes from the idea of resilience. And what I really wanted to do with this project, I've known for a long time that I've wanted to do this, but it was to take a lot of my personal experiences that are very intense, maybe even traumatic, and kind of tell it through almost like a third person story that follows this journey of anyone who's been through some of the things that I've been through and show their journey through mental health, show their journey through those experiences and how they came out of it, how they survived it, how they grew, how they basically, you know, got created into a gem, if you will, after such intense pressure and such intense circumstances.
Kind of when you introduced yourself, you talked about all the genres that you kind of explored in and kind of what genre you lay in right now. How did each chapter shape the artist that you are today? And when did you realize you weren't trying to fit into a genre anymore and just creating truly something like a Shavri?
I actually love this question. It is such a good question, Vanessa. Like, I think it's something that I've been thinking about a lot too, because especially with an album like Goddess from the Machine, which is literally the blend of all of those things, I often ask myself, like, how did I even come here? Right? And I I think I'm gonna give you a little bit of a backstory for that. So basically, the whole classical journey, singing operatic styles of singing. Like at one time I thought I was gonna go to Berlin and pursue opera and just be there, like, choir girl for life. Like, but at the same time, like a lot of the heavy metal music that I listened to was heavy metal with opera vocals. So it actually went hand in hand. So the opera and the metal was like the same stage of my life. And when I was pursuing that, like, and singing opera over bands, I learned so much. We performed so much. I really, really loved it. Like, I loved the heaviness contrasted with the higher pitched soprano vocals, the projected powerful vocals at the same time. And it was honestly everything I lived and breathed. But at some point, I think I got really jaded in the heavy metal music industry. And I'll talk a little bit about that because it does also relate to the project Goddess from the Machine. But basically, being a brown woman in a alternative genre is not easy because people always put you in boxes or don't expect you, like they don't expect that you really have the talent or the knowledge to take up that space. Like you always have to prove what bands you listen to, or you always have to prove that you're not just the merch girl. I used to get that a lot. And on top of that, like it was really disappointing to see media outlets in the heavy metal scene kind of like, they would put these articles around certain awful things that happened that was going around, and they would paint people like me, other women, other people of color, in a way that I found very harmful, in a way that was often victim blaming. And I felt very strongly about that at the time. I felt really like this is not, I don't want to, I can't align myself with this anymore. And granted, it's the scene, it's not the music, right? It's the people in the industry, like the, you know, that are curating this. And but as a result, what would happen is in the communities, that kind of mentality would go through every, like a lot of people that I was meeting. And it just became so hard. So at that point, I'd also had a falling out with one of my old bands, and I was like, I need space. So I did a 180. I took a very long gap. I did a 180. Okay. And in this time when I think I was healing from sort of that experience, um, I discovered dance. So I started taking hip hop classes. I started, like I used to listen to a lot of R&B because I would take heels as well. So I
Yeah.
really loved hip hop and heels. Those were my two favorite. And through that, like I developed such a strong love for both genres, hip hop and R&B. And I was still taking some vocal lessons at the time, and I remember one of the last things my old vocal teacher said to me was that if I was to do any style that wasn't metal or wasn't classical, she's like, I think you would be really good at R&B. And I'm like, huh. So I took that and I kind of ran with it. I was like, okay, let me explore this more. Let me try. But at the beginning, I was really not good at it because I had developed such uh like a like that classical sound,
Yeah.
and a lot of people in the music business or in singing will always say like, oh, once you sing classical you can sing anything. That is so not true, at least not for me. It was not easy to switch. It's a different placement, and I never learned like how to place my sound for like an R&B or a pop sound, and even the way you
Yeah.
approach riffs and runs are so different. So it took me a really long time. And I think in the beginning, with my first few projects, um, I think I was trying to find my sound. I was trying to find my place. I got a lot better. I succeeded in my vocal goals for being able to sing in a more R&B way. And to be honest, like, it's not like I never had any experience with soul or jazz in high school, my music program, even while I was doing classical. I really did like jazz, but it was like the classic form of jazz, like Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan, like these really iconic classic singers, but it's still very different from the modern R&B sound, right?
Yeah.
So I really practiced a lot. And then after kind of like trying to, shape my voice in a way that I liked ultimately, I kind of found myself at a point where I didn't want to leave the old me behind. I just kind of got to this point where I was like, you know what? I it doesn't feel authentic if I'm just making songs to fit a genre that hasn't like always been as big in my life. Like I felt like I was neglecting the alternative side of me a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would incorporate it in my fashion or with my tattoos, but it felt like compartmentalized, right? And
Ex-
then yeah, it's like I mean, I think everybody does this. Maybe it's very human. Like you have
Yeah.
different parts of yourself. You have your work self, you have you with your bestie, you have you with, like your parents and your part, like everyone compartmentalizes. But I think for me, like when I write music, I approach it in such a, it has to be like what I really think and feel about whatever it is I'm writing about. It has to be like I am fully in it. And I just, I felt like I just didn't feel like I had my sound yet. And then it wasn't until maybe about, I want to say early 2024, I met a producer who really helped me kind of like identify the sonic frequencies that I like and the elements of music and vocal textures that I like. Like I made so many playlists to try and figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how it kind of ended up here, where I was like, well, I don't want to neglect my old self, but I also don't want to neglect the self that I developed for a few years now with dance through dancing. So, hey, I want to make some songs people dance to. I want to, when I have a lot to say, like I I learned how to rap, and I didn't do it just because, oh, I like rap, I want to learn how to rap. Like someone just asked me to rap once and I didn't think I could do it. I was very shy, I was very self-conscious, and it was Simon Servita, and he has a YouTube channel and he has a studio where he kind of like brings on artists all the time. And I went into the session when he invited me there thinking I'm gonna sing. Like I had no intention of rapping. Let me tell you, Regina, that song, no intention of rapping going into that session, right? And we were just sitting there and he made a video about this. I think it was really funny. But I was explaining to him like what I'm telling you now about my influences and my sound, like all of this. I think I talked for a hot minute. And he just looks at me and he's like, "Have you ever rapped before?" And I was like, what?" But like he's like, "Yeah, I hear it in your voice. Like try, right?" And we are like,
Mm.
"Let's write something together." And I think that was the first time like I had been kind of practicing a little here and there in secret, like with just rhyming patterns, but not actually delivering for a song.
Right.
So he and me, we ran with this concept, and then I'm like, "Oh wow, wait, I really like how this sounds."
Yeah.
So I decided to kind of incorporate that in my music too, but in again this darker, grungier way to stay true to sort of what I like and what makes me me. So that's how you get songs like I Wish I Was AI or Freak Show on the album and Rabbit Hole. So you know, I think I use the production elements and who I'm working with and make sure there's consistency. Because I do want a sound, like I want people to hear it and know that this is me. But, excuse me. But I also want to be able to explore, like, hey, now I have a lot to say. That's when I'm gonna bring out my sassy rap energy, right?
Right.
And right now I'm feeling a bit dreamy and I want to explore this mood through a little bit more of an R&B vocal. I want to express certain parts of relationships or whatever I've experienced. And I just feel like genre to me is mood, but as long as there's an overall concept or cohesiveness, I wasn't sure if I could do it, but I think this album does that and I'm really happy about it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I really love the whole album, and I think one thing that I love about your music, because I've been following it for about like 3 years now, is that is that you do break the norms of like mixing genres and everything, and even genres that you probably wouldn't like pair together, like you're doing it, and I absolutely love it, and I think it works. And of course, and also kind of like leads me to my next question because you're using these genres to express certain parts of yourself and certain moods and feelings throughout your whole life. Um, I wanted to know, was there a moment while making this album that where you wrote something that you never allowed yourself to say before, or was it a song that like, or was there a song that scared you to release because of how like honest and vulnerable it is?
Ooh, this is such a good question. Okay, so um yes, but also I want to kind of disclaimer it because of the themes of my album being around survival and trauma and mental health. I will say that I never allowed myself to actually like my intention with this album is not to re-traumatize. Like I'm not trying to be raw for the sake of being raw. I just want people to know what it feels like what the emotional experience is and what things like that do to a person, right? And so I had pretty strong boundaries when I was writing this album to make sure that I wasn't gonna like expose myself in a way that was truly like how do I say it? Not it's not even it's not even just uncomfortable. Like I didn't want to expose something that was gonna re-traumatize me like at the end of the day, right? So I made sure not to say anything that was too too crazy, right? But I will say that there are a lot of metaphors in my album that do pertain to like very real experiences. And I think what was scary, even though it wasn't said directly, I think what was scary was actually knowing that I have to talk about it at some point, knowing that at some point, like, I have to kind of sit down with, hey, this song is actually about something very real. And I've left it up for interpretation, but at the same time, to me, when I hear it and when I'm explaining it, there's a little bit of a like, how much am I willing to share?
Yeah.
So I'll say those songs are Freak Show and Hung by the Ribbon. They are definitely the darkest songs on the album, and it is for a reason. You're supposed to, it's kind of like the climax of the album, like the dark climax, like something has happened there. Freak Show is about seeing the dark side of the person for the first time. And when I reflect on that, that's a very terrifying experience and a very um it's scary to talk about and it's hard to explain to people. I don't think I've ever been able to explain that to anybody. And I felt that this song is just the perfect kind of um reflection of what that feels like, how scary it is, but why you're still trying to tell yourself that maybe it's fine. You know, like you're almost trying to just tell, like downplay it a little bit for yourself. And then Hung by the Ribbon is kind of the point where it's actually like, okay, this is something bad has happened. This is kind of the climax moment. And in that moment, what that feels like, I really wanted to take people just into my emotional state,
Mhm.
you know? And I think that's hard, but at the end, like I made sure too that just at the end of the song, like I can't stay down there. Like I can't stay in that forever. And so at the very end of Hung by the Ribbon, I actually really Hung by the Ribbon and Freak Show are actually two of my favorite songs. But they're just that deep, right? And then at the end, it's like no, there's this resilience that comes in again. There's this hint of I will break free in a way, right? So, yeah, I'd say those two songs are probably the most.
I loved those songs, specifically Hung by the Ribbon as well. And also I wanted to like thank you and also congratulate you for being so vulnerable and kind of sharing your story because I know it's really hard for anyone to do and for an artist to be in the like lime spotlight and still do that. Totally appreciate you for that as well. And I hope that people can kind of like, I mean, if they relate to it, they can heal from it or, you know.
Yeah. Actually, I want to touch on that a little
Yeah,
bit because
go ahead.
it's like for me, I find that there's maybe a lack of understanding around things like this. And so my goal with songs like that especially is I just want to make it a bit easier to understand even for people who haven't been through these things. Like yes, in many ways there may be people who will resonate because unfortunately my story is not it's not just my story. Like there are so many people who have experienced what I have. And again, I'm not saying exactly what it is because I think the album is really about a lot of these traumas and a lot of these issues that happen. But I find that when people express these stories or they're trying to talk about it, not only is it so hard, but then we're met with kind of like just a lack of understanding, sometimes a lack of empathy, even, or maybe sometimes I think it's fear from people who are scared to really dive into understanding what that is for valid reasons. But in that fear, there's sort of like a dismissal that I've experienced when talking about it or when trying to. There was a time when I was really, really open online and I mean, I really believe in spreading knowledge and awareness and educating. But I think I also needed it for myself. So I would post these stories. I would post a lot about those things and what happened, both to raise awareness, but also just as an outlet, you know, like as a journal in a way. And I made a lot of friends through like people just connecting with me in those moments because it happened to them too, or because they also didn't know how to talk about it and they just needed to feel seen. And so for me, I think this is really for both. It's like, hey, I hope you feel seen, you know? I hope, of course, I hope you heal. I hope we heal together. I'm not done my healing journey, you know? I've done a lot of healing, but it's lifelong in many ways. But even more so, it's through my healing journey as I'm on this and as we're all on this together. It's like, hope that we all feel seen. I hope we all feel less alone, you know? But
Absolutely. And that's a very like strong message. And yeah, this is just the beginning of this like healing, reflecting
yeah.
journey, but I absolutely love it. And I was gonna ask you like what the most difficult songs were, but you kind
Um,
of, I mean, if there's another one, you can definitely answer
yeah.
that.
I want to mention one more because so while Freak Show and Hung by the Ribbon were scary because they were really honest and the metaphors in them are very raw, I want to talk about the song Red Lace for that, the one that was really difficult but also healing. So Red Lace inspired this whole project, and it's actually it comes from a poem that I wrote when I was 16, which sounds wild, okay? It sounds really wild, but but
That's
when
so
I was
sweet.
so I had this poem, this really old poem in my Facebook notes. And for context, when I was in high school, I used to be on this forum online for Evanescence, and they would have poetry challenges, and every time there was a new topic. And so I used to participate in them, but I really enjoyed it, and sometimes I would try to just write a poem based on something I learned about or heard about in school, right? Not just in the forum. So weirdly enough, 16-year-old Ashavari had just learned about human trafficking for the first time. And very terrifying because there were actually incidents when I was growing up, and there was in the news. And, you know, especially as a young girl, you have to be careful when you go out. Like, the world is scary and you have to deal with that. But I also am very like empathetic. I try to when I hear news like that, I don't just it doesn't just go over my head or just go in one way and out the other. I like imagine myself almost in the story. And it's not intentional or anything like that. It's just kind of it just happens, right?
Mhm.
But I felt so like in that story of what was happening around human trafficking, and I really like I was like, wow, this is so awful. And this is before I had any of the experiences that I had in my life, right?
Yeah.
I was just simply empathizing. And this poem first came out of that. And I was going through a bit of a hard time in school. And I felt like I was both internalizing something I was consuming, but also expressing my own traumas in a way. But I didn't have any intention for it. It was just this little poem. It was a little Facebook note, you know. That's it. Got it out of my system. And then years ago, this I wrote this song in like 2021, actually, like just the melody and lyrics. And I found that poem and I looked at it and I was like, whoa, why do I relate to the poem after experiencing so much of my life? I forgot about that poem and I'm reading it now through a nostalgia trip. And I'm like, wait a second. So what I did was I took the poem, I changed like a few words here and there in a few sentences so to make it like fit a song. And it was very short. It was a short poem. So I extended it. The
Okay.
verse two especially is like more related, but I wanted to turn it into kind of a reflective song about, hey, this is what happened. This is what it felt like. And I know I will be okay in the end. Like I will get through this, right? So in that sense, Red Lace was the most healing because I felt like I was yeah, I was gi giving life to something that baby Ash created, but
Oh,
in a much bigger way. And even since then, like I had an idea for an album like this, but I didn't know what it was gonna look like, what it was gonna sound like. But I did have like a visual in my head, which I may have done actually. It was like a dream come true. But music video TBD. But with the album now, it's kind of I just think it's so healing because it heals sort of what adult Ash has gone through, but it also kind of brings her closer to her child self that was very empathizing with those experiences, you know? I don't know.
oh, that's so sweet. And I don't think like I yeah, like it's just sorry. It's just like mesmerizing that you like 12 years later you wrote a song with this
Oh.
poem. Like I think that's so beautiful and I think that's just yeah, it's just and it also it's nice that you're incorporating that moment of your like childhood, teenagehood into your adulthood now.
I appreciate
But
that so much.
yeah,
Thanks, Vanessa.
no worries. So as this interview is filmed, you just recently released Frozen Lakes and Earthquakes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing song, amazing visuals. So I wanted to know, because this song feels like opening a door between your past and present self. I wanted to know when those versions of you finally met, what did you learn about yourself?
Wait, I love how we were just on that topic.
Yeah, exactly.
I just love how it was like a perfect.
Perfect transition.
Oh my gosh, yes. Wow, that's a good question. Honestly, I learned that I don't have to compartmentalize anymore to the degree that I was, you know? Like it was just so nice to be able to have this song that's like it's old me and present me but in an obvious way, like that other people can hear. Because I think in a song like Red Lace, maybe it's not that obvious without me telling you about the poem story. But with Frozen Lakes, it's like, it's my grunge roots. Before I listened to metal, actually, I used to listen to Alice in Chains a lot. Like grunge was huge. Punk and grunge in general, also pop punk. I listened to, MCR and like Green Day and all that too. But grunge, especially Alice in Chains, I loved them so much. And I always was such a fan of that guitar tone. And I really want to shout out for this song, especially my producer Cash Flow. He did this song, and also Alexander Lamb. He played he added guitar parts to it, which really makes it what it is. And it's just, I think I just really felt. You know what? It was healing in a different way. It was healing to just have a song that blended my worlds together. But at the same time, this song is very much about, I'm gonna say depression because it is something that I experienced when I was a teen. Again, before some of the other experiences that I was talking about in my album, I think depression itself is something that was in and out. And I have PTSD, like CPTSD. I'm pretty open about that. I've experienced depression as a symptom of my CPTSD. And so for me, this song, especially bringing old me and new me, having that bridge, it's also kind of sad for me to look on because I also think of how much again, 16-year-old Ashavari was dealing with at the time, and she didn't know what it was. She didn't know how to heal from it, right? And what she would do was she would sit in her room and blast Evanescence and write poems. Like that that's right. And so
Yeah,
it's like, oh, like I just want to give like her a hug. And in that sense, it's healing that the world can kind of see, like, hey, the two worlds collide. And I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
yeah, no, it did. I love it. And yeah, like I said, it's a great song and the visuals, and I really did love the like the
Oh,
guitar elements to it because yeah, I got the like grunge like
mm.
post or not post like 2000 early 2000s like
Yes,
era of music.
yes, yes. The early 2000s era of music was so, I live for that nostalgia, you know? It just feels so good now in 2026, especially because, like, I think back then it was so fresh and so new, and it was like hype in a different way. Like, ooh, this is new, this is cool. Now it's like, oh, I miss that. Like, I miss the magic of those moments that we shared with our friends in school, for example, or shared with people online. I was chronically online back then.
Exactly. No, and it's great. And your album is a great example of like mixing that nostalgic
Oh,
vibe with new vibe. And I think your album has something for everyone as well. So,
thank you. I really
of
appreciate
course. So, Goddess from the Machine is a very theatrical album, at least in my opinion, from the opening track, Welcome to the Opera, to the imagery like curtains, silk, and the rabbit hole reference. When did the idea of building this immersive world come together, and what part of yourself are listeners discovering as they go down that rabbit hole?
I love this question. Oh my gosh, this
Thank
is my
you.
favorite question.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
they're all great questions, Vanessa, by the way.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
okay. I'm gonna say, so funny story. I think I mentioned earlier that like there was some part of me that just knew I was gonna make an album, but I had no idea what that was gonna look like, right? So 2024 winter, it was Christmas break. I was at home and I didn't go out too much. And I decided that I'm going to binge all of the Studio Ghibli movies cuz
Yeah.
I haven't seen like like I hadn't seen all of them. I saw like maybe Spirited Away and like Howl's Moving Castle and The Boy and the Heron, and I hadn't seen any of the other ones. So I literally binged all of the Ghibli movies. And oh my gosh, it's like magic or something because the way the storytelling and the world building in Studio Ghibli is, it inspired me so much. Just so much. All of them. They were all incredible and just so beautiful. Like just everything I love in anime, but in these like little segments, like each of its own stories. But
Yeah.
especially when Marty was last there. I love that movie so much.
Oh.
And yeah, I really, really like that one. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll say that there is a mansion in Marnie, and um, the girl in the mansion I really related to. I saw myself in her. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but
Yeah.
I really saw myself in that character when it was showing kind of her upbringing and all of these things. And I just saw myself in her, and yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it. Sorry, there's like certain things that would spoil it, but that directly inspired me, so it's hard to say. But at that moment, I was like, you know what? I want to create my story as a character, because even though I knew I was gonna make this album and it was gonna transmute my experiences with intimate partner violence, with sexual assault, and everything in between, even though I knew I was going to transmute that, I also knew that I didn't want it to be re-traumatizing. I also knew I didn't want to like expose myself in a way that was harmful to me or to anybody else. And after watching all the Studio Ghibli movies and I felt so inspired, I was like, you know what? I think I want to make like I want to make a character in my head. I'm a Ghibli character, you know what I mean? But like, maybe a darker anime, like a bit more gothic anime. But that's my vibe. But for me, I was like, ooh, I think that's the perfect way because so for what it's worth, I have experienced a lot of dissociation before, and two songs, I Wish I Was AI and Frozen Lakes and Earthquakes, are very directly about my dissociation experiences. And maybe as a result of my freeze response trying to protect myself from my own experiences, I think I needed some of that distance when writing my album. And a lot of other artists usually like to create like very emotional, vulnerable projects when they're in it. But for me, I shut down really badly when I'm going through stuff. And if I was actively experiencing these things, I would not be able to write about it. I really needed space. I needed time. Like it's been years. And only until I got to a point of healing could I actually look back. And in therapy, I've been doing EMDR therapy for several years now. But in that, what the goal of EMDR therapy is to make memories smaller, like to make them more distant, not in necessarily a dissociative way. Dissociation is kind of a survival response that will like put you in an autopilot freeze distant mode to avoid feeling those things. But
Mhm.
in therapy, it's about, hey, we're going to process these feelings, we're going to feel where they are in your body, and we're going to create it in a little window in a room in your memories and kind of take it out from the overwhelming flood of emotions in the now and kind of like just look at it from over here. I'm so serious. This is what I did in therapy.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is when I saw those characters and I had that idea, I was like, it was like the aha moment. I'm like, this is the perfect way for me also to even write about it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I just felt like I don't just want to tell my story. I want to take people through the cycle,
Mhm.
right? Emotionally through the cycle. So the cycle of violence, right? And then through, hey, this is what PTSD is like. This is what comes out of that. And then at the end, this is how you arise or this is what happens. This is kind of the turning point, and what arises is this beautiful thing that's in a different form. It's, if you will, a deus ex machina, which is a literature device. Originally, I wanted like 14 songs on the album, and the last one was going to be called Deus Ex Machina. But when I was that was actually the hardest one to write, because I'm like, how do I make a song about Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Like it feels like that's the ending, but I don't know. It's just so big and so, like, I feel like I need another chapter, like how do I do that in a song? And that was the moment where I was like, what if I just call my album Deus Ex Machina, which translates to God from the Machine? And
Ah,
yeah, so that was when I was like, okay, goddess, because my album is very feminine. It is about issues that a lot of women go through, but also a lot of marginalized people in general go through. But I want to make it known that, like, I'm really speaking for the experience of, like, all women across the whole world, and just in various different societies and different kind of structures. And those structures are the machine, if you will, you know? And it's like, hey, there's this dark environment. This is what happens in it. And what and that arising moment, I feel like that was just, I don't know, it just called for theatricalness to me.
yeah.
Like
Oh, no, I love
so
how like everything came together and it's all cohesive.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is very theatrical. Like when you listen from start to finish, you kind of have like, or at least me as a musical visual
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
I have this imagery in my head. So I wanted to ask if Goddess from the Machine was staged like an opera or a film, which track would be the scene you'd want your younger self to walk into first and why?
Oh my gosh. Wait. Oh my gosh. Wait,
And
hold
maybe this will
on.
happen one day, who knows?
Maybe this will happen one day. It's so interesting because, like, even though I'm so torn right now between Red Lace and the
Yeah,
intro track.
fair.
So I'm gonna make a case for both, but, like, I'd say, well, with Red Lace, it's like she wrote that poem. So I'm like, hey.
True.
And I think that song and the imagery around that song really does it does describe the whole narrative, kind of encapsulated in one, in a way. But there's a lot that's missing from it. There's a lot of sound that's missing from it. Like, you don't hear the rap stuff in that. You don't hear the grunge in that. So it's either that, or, to be honest, I'll say the intro track. And it's because I think the intro track is what really sets the stage. And, she was an opera lover. She was studying classical. I grew up on Phantom of the Opera, by the way. We loved it. Me and my old self, we loved Phantom of the Opera so much. We still do. And I think that would feel familiar to her, right? But I think it would really set up this kind of world that she would be naturally enthralled in. And I think when she gets to the songs that she doesn't expect, she'd be like, whoa, wait a second. Because you know what? As much as there's a part of me that wants to protect my child self, I actually think she's been protecting me this whole time. And I think she's very strong and very brave. And I think she's not afraid of, she's not afraid of, like, the worst. Like, she's not like this scared little girl. She's very rebellious and a little defiant. She didn't always listen, maybe, at home. And I think I would love to show her a world, like what her world kind of turned into. And I would want to take her through the story like it's meant to be played out. I
Fair
don't
enough.
know.
Oh, that's so sweet. And when I made this question, I didn't even know the backstory behind Red Lace, so I kind of
Yeah,
love that it kind of,
I know.
yeah.
So
Um,
funny, right?
right, yeah. And then because you have such a vivid emotional world building and you create this imagery with your music and artistry, um, I instantly thought of the artist DPR Ian, who kind of explores inner worlds through storytelling and also talks about his traumas and mental health and everything. So I know you're aware of DPR Ian, so I wanted to
Yes,
know.
I love his music. I love his artistry
Exactly.
and his world building. He's great.
Yeah, so I wanted to know if you were to collaborate with him, what kind of universe do you think the two of you would create together?
Oh my gosh, I love this question, Vanessa. I think for me, the thing is, collaboration for me really comes down to this organic process where when we're in the room, we kind of talk about what we relate on or what we believe in or what we want to say or what we want to make. And it's really hard for me to answer what that would look like because I think I would actually have to be in the room. And I love Ian. Like I feel very seen by his music. And I am very inspired by Ian because in the way that I felt seen in his music, I applied that logic and that kind of framework to me approaching my own artistry where, hey, I also have these experiences that I've been through. And just as I've felt seen by artists, I want to have music as an artist that people can feel seen by. And so, if we were to collaborate, A, that would be incredible, but B, I don't know what would come out of it. I really want something to, obviously, but I think we would have to be in the same room. I think get us in the room where collaboration is, you know, is possible, and then we'll tell you. But I would love that. I think that would be really beautiful. I also just love when artists collab in general. When I see my favorite artists collaborating, whether they're from different worlds or in similar universes, but I think that I always look for that authenticity and that connection. I'll give you an example. I do a lot of collaborations in my music. So with Feel the Same, it's an older song that I wrote with my friend Dante Rivers. Shout out to him. He also actually kind of does that R&B fusion grunge. He's from Seattle. I used to live there for 6 months. Seattle is such a grunge city. And when we were writing Feel the Same, what was really interesting was that I I was there short term, right? And I had fallen in love when I was in the city, but I had to leave and I was going to Toronto. And funny enough, he experienced something really similar at the same time, except he was the person staying and the other person had to leave. And I'm like, whoa, like our experiences are mirroring, but they're opposite. And
Yes.
I'm like, wait, we have to write a song about this because I can write from the perspective of the person leaving. You can write from the perspective of the person staying. And it just made sense, right? Like
Yeah.
it, and it just happened, like the timing and everything. I love how organic that was. And like, I think that's also always in my top songs. It's just a very beautiful song. And like, I haven't seen Dante in so long because I haven't been back to Seattle in a long time. But I miss my friends there. He's a very good friend, as is like there's so many artists there. Kenshi Kills, Ani John. I love them so much. They're wonderful. But whenever I collaborate, it's just so we're in the room and we're feeling whatever the energy in the room, whatever we're feeling, that's what we're gonna make. Right. And I think with DPR Ian, if that ever happens, and I hope it does, um, I think we would approach it very similarly.
Fair. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I am manifesting this DPRE and Ashavari collaboration. The
Yes,
world
this would
building
be
would be crazy.
oh my god.
Uh, Going back to obviously, you talk a lot about being South Asian and how important it is for that heritage to be seen throughout your artistry and your music and everything. And you subtly weave this into your music and visuals. So I wanted to know, how has being South Asian shaped your creative perspective, and what does it mean to you to be a visible role model for other South Asians pursuing music?
You know what? I think this has always been, I mean, of course, it's always been in my life, but like it's always been such a strong focus or a strong point for me. Going back to my experiences in a metal band, I never saw anybody that looked like me. And, you know, I was just around like mostly yeah, just mostly men and mostly white people. And I was like the only brown girl, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I would see one other person in like 5 years or something, but like it was very rare. And we would bond every time. And I think because I had those moments where I got to bond with like the one person across a room of like 400 people that
Yeah.
looks like me, you know, I just felt, I always intrinsically felt that I am not the only one. I knew that there, like, I can't be the only, like, you know what I mean? Like, there are
Yeah,
so many alternative South Asians and everything. And I always wanted to kind of put myself out there so that I find my people and I attract my people. Because that
fair.
was the goal. And with my music specifically, um, you know what? I never even noticed the ways that I weaved it in sometimes because I think it comes really natural to me. My name is Ashavari. It comes from Raga Savari, which is like it's from a type of musical melody in Indian classical music. And so with my song Levitate, it was more intentional with the visuals because I I wanted to make that statement about who I am, that identity statement, before I released an album like this, which was more genre fusion and a little bit more ambiguous. And it was because I don't want people to ever separate that part of my identity. You know, I don't want ever people to look at me and not see me as a South Asian artist, but I also want them to see me as a South Asian artist that doesn't make quote unquote South Asian music. I mean, what is that, right? Like, what is South Asian music? Is it just music created by a South Asian person? Does it require instruments, language? Like, what does that mean? And for me, it's like I want them to see all of me. Like, I don't want, you know, people to find out in 10 years that I'm actually South Asian. Like, right? Cuz that happens to some artists. People go on not even knowing and then suddenly they're like, "Oh, they're South Asian, really?" That
Yeah.
happens so much. So, I wanted to release that first and make it very clear to the world how deeply integrated it and not just integrated in my life, but how deeply it matters to me from a value standpoint. So that was with Levitate. But then even with Goddess from the Machine, like I have a lot of fabric that I use in my visuals and a lot of thread. And
Mhm.
textiles, fabric, threads, these are all very culturally significant in all of South Asia. I'm from India, by the way. Maybe I said that in the beginning, but I'm from Mumbai. And yeah, I think the textiles and the fabrics, like my grandma in India would like sew with me. I would Oh, this is so cute. My mom would make me dresses to perform in kindergarten. Like, I was 2 years old and I had a microphone and I was in front of people. Okay, it's really funny. And it's in Mumbai in this little kindergarten class. And then she would sew me a dress based on, for example, My Fair Lady. Like like in My Fair Lady, that movie, that classic movie, there's a
Mhm.
scene where she goes to the horse race and she has this gorgeous dress and a big hat and my mom like sewed that for me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right? And then even saris and little doilies and like all of these. I just think I've been like surrounded by draping fabric. That's such a
Yeah.
South Asian experience, honestly. Right? Like again, saris, kurtas, all of the.
Yeah.
I love fashion, but even beyond fashion, how we decorate our places, our homes. So in Goddess from the Machine, there are some visuals again where you'll see that show up. Um, I actually used it as a symbolic meaning. So with red lace, right? I imagine draping red lace almost like a veil again, similar to levitate, but it has an inverted meaning now because the album is much darker. So the meaning in red lace is being covered not because you covered yourself, being forced to be veiled in that sense.
Mhm.
Um, Additionally, red threads, this idea of like puppet strings, that's not necessarily like intrinsically South Asian, I think, but there's something about the thread and the dynamic of like control, like systemic control and breaking free of that, that I think is a theme that has been in my family and in my culture that, you know, we've generationally been trying to move forward from and overcome. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. And I absolutely love that you're so, I mean, like as you should be, you're so proud to be South Asian and also um incorporating it into your music. And I think it's like I'm also South Asian as well. So I think if I had you when I was younger, like it would have made a difference having
Oh,
that role model, you know? So
I feel the same way.
yeah,
I really feel the same way. Like I wish I had the role models that look like me growing up because I would feel less alone. I'd feel more seen. Maybe I mean,
exactly.
yeah, maybe my self-esteem would be different. My self-esteem journey would be different, right? Because I
Yeah.
struggled with that as a kid. And now it's a lot better. Like, I mean, I'm, a lot older. I'm in my early 30s. But yeah, like it's maybe my journey would have been different if I simply had a role model that kind of mirrored our experiences, right?
Yeah, but at least the younger generation now will have like you as
Yes.
a role model. So
Yes. Also, I want to shout out someone. Suka Never Dies. She is so cool. She is
yeah.
such a role model, and she's really someone who's doing that. One of the corsets that I was wearing in Frozen Lakes and Earthquakes, the visuals for it in
Mhm.
the Moonlight Studio visual, I bought from her. And she's another South Asian baddie. She's Bengali, and her content is amazing. Like her fashion is truly out of this world. She is a very beautiful soul and a unique person. And I admire her. I wish I had somebody like her to look up to when I was a kid, but I love seeing that she's doing that for the younger generation. And as an older woman, like I look up to people like that no matter what age they are, right? Like no matter
Yeah.
how old they are, it doesn't matter. So yeah, respect, truly.
Oh, I love that. And with your music, you're very
Mhm.
creative and you have so many layers coming through your music, with lots of like genres and themes
Mhm.
and everything. So I wanted to know, is there a recurring theme, a personality trait, or an element that you always try to include to make your projects authentically you?
Ooh, great question.
Thank you.
Ooh, you know what? I feel like I'm still a little bit early to really know what that is. I think my voice, to be honest, like the way I use my voice, maybe. I think in some ways I'm still trying to find what is the Ashavari signature, like
Yeah,
yeah, cuz as you've heard, my older projects sound pretty different from the stuff I've released with this album and in the past year or two. So, I think I just try to like lean into the mood, like experiencing genre's mood or expressing a certain vocal style based on how I'm feeling
yeah.
or what I'm trying to say. I think that's how I would do it, but it's definitely a work in progress to find out. So maybe next time I will have a better answer for you here.
Absolutely. Next interview, yay.
Yeah.
And but because you have been crafting this project for so
Mhm.
long and it's your debut
Mhm.
album, I wanted to know like what emotions are coming up as you finally share it with the world.
Oh my gosh. That's all I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding. Um, It is so scary. It's actually terrifying. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It is so scary. I have been so nervous for the past month. I've been so nervous. Like, like I think I've been overthinking a lot. I am unfortunately an overthinker, and I've been overthinking how I'm gonna talk about it. I was really nervous for just honestly like this interview, just because it's my first
Oh,
interview, by the way. Doing my first interview with another amazing South Asian woman in the industry we love. But no, I think the nerves and the fear has been like the biggest. But then aside from that, I'm so overjoyed and excited. Like, I feel like, okay, I can't say I feel like I'm giving birth. I've never given birth before, but like I obviously can't make that analogy. But I really feel like this little seed that has been planted in my mind for a very long time.
hmm.
Like if you think about it, I've been just having the seed of the idea maybe since 2021, but that poem Red Lace has existed since what, 12 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's just like wow, I'm just so excited to finally like have something out there that feels like a legacy that truly is me. Like, I think this is the first time I can say, this is my sound, or this is who I am, like loudly and proudly. Not that my older music is not who I am, it was just me on a journey to find it. But this is the first time it was as intentional as it was, like everything. And I'm like, yes, this is my art. It's just a very special feeling. So I'm just really excited. And I really hope that people like it. I have no idea how people are going to receive it. I've heard so many like obviously like with my friends and people I'm close to that got early sneak peeks, I've had
Yeah.
really great feedback, but with the world at large, I have no idea. And that's both exciting and nerve-wracking, and I'm also curious, like I have a lot of curiosity around it. Like, who's gonna like what? You know, who are gonna like the hip hop style tracks, and then who are gonna like the dreamy R&B tracks, and then who's just like die hard. This grunge song is the best thing I've ever heard in my life, or this intro, epic intro that sounds like the beginning of Phantom of the Opera or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to just hear people's reactions, no matter what they would be. And hey, if you resonate, great. If you don't, great. Or if you are like, I don't relate or resonate, but I like it, yay, love you. There's space for everyone. I call my fandom the gems because there are so many different types of gems. We're all unique. We have our own sparkle, our own style, our own vibe, but also we are resilient. Very, very resilient and beautiful. So
Oh, I love that. I like literally love your whole message. And I am, oh, there she goes.
there she goes. The earring has
She got too
left
excited
me
as
again.
well.
She got too excited.
But no, I'm also very excited. So I'll be tuning into all your comments and everything to kind of see what everyone's saying.
Yeah.
Well, we are at our last question of this
Oh my
interview.
gosh.
Another kind of like fun one, but if you could choose one song to play for your younger self before entering the music industry, which track would it be?
Before entering the music industry,
Yeah. Which I
like
know you said you've been singing since you were a kid, but like
yeah.
maybe pre-metal Ashavari.
Okay, so we're talking like 6-year-old Destiny's Child, Sierra Levin,
Yeah.
Ashavari,
Yeah.
like Backstreet Boys, my
Exactly.
Shania Twain phase, Fifi Dobson. Oh, that's a little bit rockish, but I did have a Shania Twain era.
Oh, nice.
Canadian legend.
Love
It's so
her.
random. It's really random. Like
I love her, so
I
don't
know, I
blame
love
you.
her too. The blue eyeshadow, the gotta get you good video was iconic.
Yeah.
Um, what would I play for? Ooh, that's a really. You know what? I will play Glitter in the Dark. It is very. It
Yes.
makes sense because it's so whimsical, and
Yeah.
I call it whimsical D&B, like whimsical drum and bass.
Yeah.
That's the
That's
vibe,
perfect.
right? And like it's so wholesome. Like it actually, oh, like when I think of Glitter in the Dark, it was actually inspired by someone I know's story because, um, again, when talking about some of those darker experiences, someone was telling me about theirs, and they were telling me about when they were in this like dark room, in that situation. What got them through it was just painting with their glitters.
Oh,
And like I remember I asked, I was like, hey, is it okay? I think that's really beautiful. I really relate to the concept of art getting you through pain, and I just love the glitter, like how you like I just love that. Is it okay if I make it a song? And they were really like happy about that. It's kind of dedicated to them.
oh,
Actually, can I pull something up for a second?
go ahead. Yeah.
They created some artwork as well for the song, although
Oh,
you
that's
cannot really see it
beautiful.
that clearly.
I can see it in
But
glimpses. Oh, there we go.
yeah,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
trying
Oh,
to.
that's so pretty. Yeah,
It's
there you
so
go.
beautiful, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And it actually is glittery for real in person. But yeah, I just thought that was so. It gave me so much hope in that moment, you know? I think that's
hmm.
when I really felt that resilience and really felt that wow. And for me, I needed that song to be whimsical. I needed that light at the end of the tunnel, but instead of such a cliche light at the end of the tunnel, I'm like, no, I'm under the shooting stars. I'm in this room and there's shooting stars, there's glitter, there's it's just such a pretty. I love space. You know
Yeah.
what? 13 oh, before 13, whatever, younger child Ashavari, she wanted to go to space. Like she wanted to be an astronaut low key. Like she loved the universe and the cosmos and was obsessed with the stars and how the galaxies were created.
Oh,
So
yeah. So
I
this
think
is
she
for
would
her.
really like it. This is for her, dedicated to her.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that song as well. Of course. Well, is there anything else that you want to say to the listeners or the viewers?
I don't know. Just yeah, I really hope you like this album, and I I'm just really grateful if you even listen to the full thing front to back. It is really meant to be listened to from the beginning to the end, like a film, like a movie, low key like an anime. I kind of want to turn it into an anime one day because there is actual lore, but that's for another time. Another day. But yeah, I really appreciate you, and to anyone who has been following for so long, thank you so much. No matter how long you were here for, if you just came in, if it's just been a few years, or if you've been here since I was like 2006 on YouTube, I don't know. There's some shout out to those people too. Like, it really means a lot because I just, I don't know. It just means a lot that anyone's even willing to listen and willing to hear what I have to say. And I really appreciate it a lot. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining this interview today. And for everyone
Thank you.
watching or listening, Goddess from the Machine is out now, so go stream it, go listen, and go follow Ashavari because she's great. But thank you so much again for doing this interview.
Thank you, Bernessa. Have a really good one.
You too, bye.
Bye.
Maybe the easy pain.